Good evening. Malacanang says President Bongbong Marcos will not oppose calls to amend the 1987 Constitution through a constitutional convention as long as it will help improve the charter. In a privileged speech on Monday, August 11, House Deputy Speaker Ronaldo Puno said the evolving demands of governance compel lawmakers to consider charter change or amending the Constitution's wording. He cited the interpretation of the word forthwith in Article 11 of the Constitution, which covers impeachment. He noted how an ambiguous term can become the justification for what he described as legislative inaction, procedural manipulation, and the loss of accountability. In a briefing on Tuesday, August 12, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro argues that the framers of the 1987 Constitution already made the definitions and provisions clear. She says any perceived ambiguity was merely crafted to favor certain interests. But she says the President will be open to constitutional amendments if it will close any loophole in the provisions.
Sa ngayon po ay hindi pa po masasabi ng Palasyo at ng Pangulo kung ano maging reaksyon dahil hindi pa naman po nakikita ang detalye na gagawin patungkol po dito. So kung ito naman po ay ikagaganda at ikaliliwanag para hindi na mabutasan ang anumang mga provision dito sa Constitution, hindi naman po ito tututulan ng Pangulo.
Critics have called out the Senate's delay in initiating the impeachment proceedings of Vice President Sara Duterte. The 1987 Constitution mandates the upper chamber to forthwith proceed with a trial once it receives the articles of impeachment from the House of Representatives. Forthwith is generally understood to mean immediately. However, the term became contentious as the impeachment process overlapped with the transition from the 19th to the 20th Congress in June. The dispute led to a temporary impasse before the Senate decided to convene as an impeachment court during the 19th Congress. The Senate has since archived the impeachment complaint against Duterte following the Supreme Court's ruling that the case was deemed unconstitutional. Malacanang says Vice President Sara Duterte should have responded to allegations of her alleged misuse of confidential funds long before the issue reached impeachment proceedings. In a briefing on Tuesday, August 12, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro responds to Duterte's statement that she would only answer allegations against her in the proper forum. Castro hits back at Duterte, saying she should have clarified the issues right from the start.
Noon pa po dapat niya ginawa. Noon pa lang dapat nalinis na po sa COA pa lang. Nung karoon ng AOM, bago pa nagkaroon ng Notice of Disallowance, dapat ay naipaliwanag na ng maayos. Hindi na darating ito sa impeachment proceedings kung naging maliwanag lamang ang kanyang pag-explain. Lalo na ng kanyang mga tauhan na mula yata sa accountant hanggang kay Atty. Zuleika Lopez ay walang alam kung paano nagastos ang confidential funds niya.
Allegations of confidential funds misuse are among the grounds cited in the impeachment complaint against Duterte. This includes the reported spending of 125 million pesos in just 11 days. Before the impeachment complaint was filed, Duterte was asked to explain her office's use of confidential funds before the House of Representatives. However, Duterte consistently declined, especially during the 2024 deliberations on her office's proposed 2025 budget. The Vice President also skipped a House inquiry into the alleged misuse of funds, calling it unnecessary and based on unsubstantiated allegations. The Department of the Interior and Local Government is banning all personnel and local government units nationwide from accessing or engaging in any form of online gambling. The memorandum circular dated August 12 covers all DILG personnel, including employees of its attached agencies. It also covers elected and appointed LGU officials and employees. The DILG says it received reports that many government officials and employees have been engaging in online gambling activities. According to the DILG, such acts affect the integrity and credibility of government service. The DILG cites the Office of the President's Memorandum Circular No. 6 Series of 2016, which states that the entry or presence of government officials in gambling casinos is considered harmful to public service. The agency points out that the original intent of the Memorandum Circular No. 6 has been undermined by the accessibility of online gambling platforms. The DILG's memo emphasizes online gambling poses a threat to the ethical standards of public officials. According to the agency, the memorandum takes effect immediately. Violators of the DILG's memo will face administrative and/or criminal sanctions under pertinent laws, rules, and regulations. The Philippine government says it is seriously concerned by the dangerous maneuvers of the People's Liberation Army Navy and the China Coast Guard off Scarborough Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. In a statement on Tuesday, August 12, the Department of Foreign Affairs calls out China for its unlawful interference with a routine humanitarian operation for Filipino fishermen. The DFA says China's actions not only pose a grave danger to Philippine personnel and vessels, but also resulted in the collision between the two Chinese vessels. The agency points out that the Philippines offered medical aid to the Chinese side, as well as assistance in towing the damaged China Coast Guard vessel out of the area. The department then cites the importance of maritime safety and working with relevant parties to draw lessons from the incident. The Philippine government says it remains committed to utilizing diplomacy and dialogue to address differences in the West Philippine Sea and settle disputes peacefully. The Philippines says it will also continue to assert and protect its sovereignty in accordance with international law. While chasing a Philippine Coast Guard ship on August 11, China Coast Guard 3104 collided with Chinese Navy warship 164 off Scarborough Shoal. China Coast Guard 3104 was pursuing the PCG's BRP Suluan, which was escorting other vessels on a mission to assist Filipino fisherfolk near the shoal. Scarborough Shoal lies within the Philippines' 220-kilometer exclusive economic zone. China continues to reject the 2016 arbitral ruling that invalidated its claim to most of the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. Senate President Jesus Gado confirms that Centerway's construction donated to his 2022 election campaign, but he denies helping the firm secure big-ticket flood control projects with the government. President Bongbong Marcos earlier revealed that 100 billion pesos of the government's 545 billion peso flood mitigation budget during his administration was awarded to just 15 contractors. This includes the firm being linked to Escudero Centerway's construction. In a press conference on Tuesday, August 12, Escudero says the firm's owner made a lump sum donation of 30 million pesos to his campaign. However, the Senate chief denies any involvement with the company, saying he's not a business partner.
Yan na naman yung innuendo at insinuation na palaging dinidikit at sinasabi porkit nag-contribute o nagbigay. Matagal ko ng kaibigan at kakilala siya at tumutulong talaga sa amin. Mula't mula pa, nung hindi pa iso to. At tubong sorsogon talaga siya.
Escudero was then asked if he assisted the firm to land government flood deals when he was already a senator. He says the construction company secured more projects when he was not yet a member of the Senate. Escudero stresses he was not a partner of the firm. He then urges the public to focus instead on government officials who own companies that secured major deals for the administration's flood control programs.
Hindi ako bahagi ng kanya negosyo. Again, that's the innuendo and the insinuation being floated and propagated. Bakit natin hindi tingnan? Sino ba yung mga mambabatas at opisyal na gobyerno na aktual na kontraktor, aktual na may-ari noong mga kumpanya na nakakuha ng kontrata sa gobyerno?
Power distributor Meralco announces an increase in its electricity rates for the month of August. In a statement on Tuesday, August 12, Meralco says it will hike its power rates by around 62 centavos per kilowatt hour. This latest hike will push the overall rate for a typical household to 13 pesos and 27 centavos per kilowatt hour in August, from 12 pesos and 64 centavos per kilowatt hour in July. Residential customers consuming 200 kilowatt hours will see an increase of around 125 pesos in their power bill this August. The power distributor attributes the increase in rates to higher pass-through generation and transmission charges. This marks the second consecutive month of price hikes in Meralco's electricity rates. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.